All right, good evening, everyone. This is the weekly coaching call for the 98 Trust Administrator Masterclass. For those who are looking up the website, it is 98trustadministratormasterclass.com. I'm going to begin tonight's call with some announcements that I have and also the seminar portion of the call, just given that this is being recorded so others can go back and listen to it. And then I will turn the floor over to Q&A. I think everyone here is relatively familiar with how these calls usually go. So in terms of announcements, so a lot of things are obviously happened this week. First thing that I just wanted to bring up is that I've actually opened an expanded Patreon subscription membership tier that is the priority inbox subscriber tier, because my DMs pretty much every single day are consistently flooded with technical inquiries. So I have created a specialized tier on Patreon to facilitate that a little better for those who might need more in-depth consultations for any sort of matter that they're dealing with, or document analysis, just anything that would require a more technical inquiry. That service is actually listed on Patreon currently. I just got that launched today. In terms of the other developments, had some very exciting correspondences and test runs with the offshore staff for getting several of the products and services that we've been speaking about on recent calls rolled out. So testing is happening. Most of the correspondences with them are of a technical nature, so I wouldn't want to bore anyone with the details about that, but we're very close to actually launching those things. I've added some expanded functionalities on the website through the WordPress development operation for that, which is still ongoing. So count on updates for the website appearing in the very near future, hopefully a couple of days, couple of weeks. The other and probably most interesting part of the call, which I'm going to speak intensively about before I address questions, was actually a conversation that I had with an AI this week, in which it told me, probably more than it realized it was telling me, about basically skipping the 810 algorithm altogether and getting straight to the refund algorithm release switch whenever a return is filed claiming a 1099 OID refund. So I do have notes regarding the gist of that conversation. Those are posted in the 1099 OID Solutions channel. They're posted for today, November 22nd. And this information is about to be very, very technical. So I would suggest just reading through the notes just after the call, and also listening to the recording. I'm going to try my best to explain all of it. But what the AI unwittingly gave me was a very detailed explanation of how the 810 code algorithm moves and what it looks for, and basically the three checks which, if passed, bypass it altogether whenever a tax return claiming a 1099 OID refund is filed. So I'm going to just dive right into those notes. This will be a bit more of a seminar, so I may spend a significant amount of the call speaking on this. So I addressed that I had the gist of this conversation with AI. From what it was able to tell me, IRS Code 810 uses a three-part matching scheme, and that matching scheme automatically triggers an 810 code on an account that shows a withholding refund whenever one of the three parts to the algorithm don't match at the time an income tax return is filed, which contains a refund credit claim based on the withholding box, that is box 4 from 1099 OID. The three checks, they run at the time that a return is filed, and you just want all three to match at the time the return is filed, and that bypasses the algorithm altogether. So to address the specific checks in this three-part matching system and how they work. The first check that the algorithm will ask is, does the Form 1099 OID or other information return appear in IRMF data for the tax year in which the withholding refund is claimed? So to explain that a little more in detail, the IRMF is the IRS's information return master file database system. It exists as a separate audit trail or internal record that is separate from the wage and income transcript, which the IRS primarily uses for auditing purposes. And that is, they will reference the IRMF when either confirming or denying on their ends that a Form 1099 OID or other information return has actually been received by the IRS. The way they see it, if a Form 1099 does not appear in the IRMF, that form is considered as having never been filed with the IRS, even if the IRS is wrong and the 1099 form actually was filed. If the 810 algorithm finds that the 1099 form is contained within the IRMF, the algorithm, the three-check algorithm that's used by the 810 code system will proceed to check number 2. So check number 2 has the algorithm ask if the 1099 OID or other information return does appear in the IRMF system for the tax year in which the refund is being claimed, does the information from the 1099 OID perfectly match the information contained within the payer and recipient's return transcript? So for this secondary check, what the 810 algorithm is doing is it's taking all of the data from the 1099 OID that it found in the IRMF, and it's referencing that with the tax return transcripts for the payer on that form and the tax return transcripts of the recipient on that form. And the algorithm is checking whether the numbers match all the way through between both parties' sets of transcripts and the recorded 1099 OID from the IRMF database. So the 810 code algorithm, it'll ask the payer's name, the payer's TIN number, the amounts from box 1 and box 4 on the 1099 OID, and probably the payer's address and other details, and it will check the payer's income tax return transcripts and 945 tax return transcripts to see that those things match on both the return transcripts and also the 1099 OID. And the algorithm will also check this equivalent information for the recipient. It's going to check the recipient's name, its taxpayer identification number, its address, the box 1 entry and the box 4 entry, and it's going to look at the tax return that was filed for the recipient and confirm that all of the entry fields on the return match the 1099 OID data, which is inside the IRMF. And when we're looking at the payer's transcripts, this algorithm is going to want to know whether the income amount on the payer's transcripts is at least as much, if not more, than the box 1 entry. And same for the withholdings. It wants to know whether the withholdings entry is at least as much, if not more, on the payer's return transcripts as what is shown on the 1099 OID. And that goes apparently for the 945 transcript as well as the 1040 transcripts, or not 1040, excuse me, income tax return transcript for the payer. And that is the detailed check, just to confirm that basically the data inside the IRMF for the 1099 OID reflects on both parties' return transcripts. When the algorithm has determined that these numbers do match up, it proceeds to check number 3. And in check number 3, what the 810 code algorithm is asking, the final piece of the algorithm in its review, is the following question. If the information from all involved return transcripts matches the information from the 1099 OID itself, do the federal income tax withholding amounts from Box 4 of the 1099 OID reflect as paid to the IRS on the payer's 945 backup withholding return transcript for the tax year in which the refund was claimed. And what the algorithm is looking at is it's looking at the 945 return transcript for the payer and confirming that there is a 945 withholding tax liability deposit payment in an amount greater than or equal to the Box 4 entry on the Form 1099 OID. And when all three of these conditions are met at the time the tax return claiming the refund is filed, the return will bypass the 810 code algorithm entirely and release the withholding refund automatically within 30 days of being filed. There were some noteworthy discoveries which all got revealed to me in this conversation with the AI tool that I was speaking with. The AI suggested that IRMF data only updates for Forms 1099 and other information returns that are actually filed in the specific tax year listed in the upper right-hand corner of the 1099 form. And IRMF systems do not record paper-filed 1099 forms at all. And that had me a little bit troubled and worried a little earlier today, because I was thinking, well, how could prisoners access their backup withholdings if paper filed forms are not recorded into the IRMF? And the AI I was speaking with also suggested that while it may be possible to amend prior 1099 forms or information return packets in the IRMF system submitted by the payer for the specific tax year of the withholding, 1099 returns for that specific tax year, which were filed after the tax year already happened, bypass the IRMF's data system altogether and do not get recorded into it, even if those 1099 forms or information returns appeared on the payee or recipient's wage and income transcripts, thus triggering the 810 code algorithm and refund delays pending manual review. So what I developed based on that response from AI regarding how this 810 algorithm is reading all of the tax transcripts, 1099s, and tax returns is basically an updated workflow which should just skip the refund checks and manual withholding reviews and just get straight to the refund algorithm consistently every single time we're filing tax returns. So the first step in this process, and this is all listed in my long post in 1099 Solutions today, our first step is that we would trace the 1099 OID payer's TINs through a standard CUSIP number tracing protocol. And I do have a YouTube video on CUSIP number tracing, which is in development. But when we look up a CUSIP number, what we're actually looking for is the taxpayer identification number, name, and address details of the entity that we're listing as the payer on a Form 1099 OID. Once these CUSIP details and TINs have been located, we would pull each payer's 4506T transcript through the IRS CAF units. That is done with the 4506T packets, which I have posted in the documents channel. This allows us to confirm that the TINs we traced are real EINs on file in the IRS's own transcript record, and further allows us to confirm whether those EINs have established federal tax payment histories under their applicable income tax return transcripts and 945 backup withholding return transcripts. So once we have all of these transcripts from the 4506T packet, we then proceed to step 2 in the updated workflow for the basically fastest result of getting the OID refunds as fast as possible. And in step 2, we will confirm from the transcript data that we got from the CAF unit whether each 1099 OID payer's 945 return transcript shows a 945 return filing history and tax payment history for amounts at least as high as those claimed in Box 4 of our Forms 1099 OID, preferably higher. So what that means is we would, I'll address the next part of it because it actually explains it. If the 945 return transcript data in that step does not show any federal tax payment history at all, or at least one as high as the Box 4 entry, then we would make arrangements to have the 1099 OID payer Form 945 return to get filed, showing a backup withholding tax liability for these amounts, so that this liability can appropriately be collected from the overpayment credits sitting on the 1099 OID payer's income tax return transcripts. And that was the negative number that I showed from the Walmart example during some of our previous calls, where I showed the Walmart transcripts and we saw like $900 million overpayment, $1 billion overpayment for each tax year. It's basically that credit. We're wanting to use that credit to pay the 945 return transcripts backup withholding tax liability on the payer's side, and basically reallocate the credits from their income tax transcripts over to the 945 return transcripts, so those amounts can accordingly be credited and refunded based on the 1099 OID refund data that would then show up in the IRMF system. So for step 2, the AI suggested that once this 945 return gets filed and is posted onto each OID payer's 945 return transcript, this reallocation that I was explaining, where we basically take the overpayment credit on their income tax transcript and then allocate that over to the 945 return transcript, that reallocation can happen through a cross-module transfer request on the payer's EIN. And that is made through a written letter, which invokes Revenue Procedure 2002-26. It is actually a very informal letter, and I was seeing like what the AI wrote is just like a letter asking that credits be allocated from their regular transcript over to the 945 transcript. And that goes to the IRS field office, corresponding to wherever the payer regularly files their income tax return. And then obviously we get authorized to do this by filing the Form 56 from the 4506T packet. So in summary, step 2 confirms that each payer's 945 return and 945 withholding tax deposit has been paid in advance of us filing the 1099 OID and refund return, which bypasses check number 3 in the 810 code algorithm. So once that step is done and we've got the 945 details confirmed showing on their transcripts and ready to go, we get to step 3 in the filing process, where once steps 1 and 2 have been completed and the 945 and payer's taxpayer identification number from steps 1 and 2 are all showing on the 1099 OID payer's income tax return transcripts and 945 return transcripts from our 4506T packet, we then just proceed as normal, shown in the 1099 OID Masterclass YouTube video. And we would be filing these 1099 OIDs based on the CAF unit verified information that we had received from our previous steps. And this would pertain to a filing process for the current tax year in this particular workflow. For prior tax years, there is another protocol that the AI was explaining to me with IRS Form 945X and a corrected Form 1099 OID, but that method was so technical, to me it seems impractical, because we can always go back to prior years where we're claiming a 1099 OID refund and accelerate those credits into the current tax year through an accounting method known as amortization, which is where like prior debts become current debts. I think Black's Law Dictionary has a pretty good definition of the word amortization. It refers to basically liquidating a bond. So once the 1099 OID from step 3 posts onto our recipient's wage and income transcripts, and it shows all the CAF unit verified information discussed in steps 1 through 3, We would then file the tax return as shown in the 1099 OID masterclass video. And because the information on the tax return is confirmed as valid by the IRS CAF unit before the return is filed, the return should bypass checks 1 through 3 in the 810 code algorithm and automatically release the refund through the automated refund algorithm on a consistent basis every single time. And this particular process that I posted in the 1099 OID Solutions channel, it pertains to current year tax filings, so this would all go in for like 2025 at the time of the recording. So all of what I just explained is actually posted in 1099 OID Solutions, and this call is being recorded. If anyone wanted to go back and just listen to the recording to understand all of that, it's probably a lot of information, but this just pertains to what triggers the 810 code algorithm, how to sidestep that at the time that we actually file both the 1099 OIDs and the tax returns. So that concludes my announcements part of the call. I'm now turning the floor over to all general questions. One thing I ask for is if someone is not speaking, just please mute yourself so that we don't hear any background noise or background conversations, and then feel free to unmute whenever you want to ask a question. And obviously there are no stupid questions, so I welcome questions at all levels of experience. I consider myself a good listener, so I'll basically meet the asker where they're at and then try to get them where they're trying to go with the response to the question.
How you doing, David?
I'm in a pretty good mood. I feel like the subject matter which we cover on these calls is usually very bleak, but I also feel like there's rapidly a procedural pathway happening and getting developed by which to solve it as quickly as possible. So, I mean, this is a really dark subject. I think it's the darkest machine ever created. I was having thoughts a little earlier today about incarcerated individuals and how my theory is that the IRM is actually specifically set up to make 1099 filings inaccessible to incarcerated people, given that paper forms 1099 OID are not even read by the IRMF system, which is like the auditing record that various IRS employees are using whenever they respond to any inquiries we send them about 1099 OID refunds or even refund returns. And I feel like that design is actually very deliberate, and it's specifically written into the IRM, which by the way is not law, to make it more challenging and difficult for people to access refunds they might have otherwise been timely entitled to. So I really, I don't like that predatory design behind the IRM, but I believe it is consistent with this original machine we've talked about. The 810 code is an AI. It's an AI algorithm, and it contains the mechanism, the censorship algorithm design from what I've characterized as the original machine in some of the other calls. So that just had me worried when I was out and about today. I was just kind of like walking around outside thinking to myself, how would an incarcerated person access any of these systems? I feel like they're specifically made inaccessible in a predatory manner. So I found that rather troublesome. And then obviously we got to the call where we're talking through the solution. But I found the overall picture and overall situation illustrated by all of that quite troublesome. And to answer Beverly's question, so it's best to do this starting 2025 filing so we don't have to worry with the amended process. Yes, and just move and like file additional OIDs, just allocating previous credits into the current tax year whenever you file this. Screen, and I'm just calling them screen because it looks like a screen or maybe a sign, maybe sign is what the name is asking if the workflow that I provided is suited for 2025 OID filings. How can we combat 810 codes for 2024 amendments. I would say start working on the 2025 return while combating the 810 codes for 2024 amendments so that both processes are happening simultaneously, where we have the manual refund review and 810 code removal process happening from the 911 packets. And we also simultaneously have this automated algorithm happening for the 2025 returns as well. And it would specifically be filed in a way so as to avoid the 810 algorithm entirely. I think the biggest factor that we would use in order to actually move IRS employees into doing their job is proof of IRMF receipt for Forms 1099 OID. Like, once those forms get into the IRMF and all of their payment records and EIN records check out, these IRS representatives who keep trying to talk badly to us on the phone have no basis to continue leaving the 810 code on the accounts. I think they would realize at that point they're kind of backed up into a wall. They can no longer say they never got the filings and would just have to issue the direct deposits and checks. That's the opinion that I have regarding like prior tax years with an 810 code and also the current tax year, which I think should follow this most recent protocol for the fastest results.
So, David, an 18 code popped up like a week ago. After I submitted the mailed in my response to the CP05A. And prior to that, I only had a 570 code this whole, for 2 months maybe.
Did you get the responsibility code for the 810?
No, I haven't called in yet.
Yeah, call the IRS and ask them what the responsibility code is for the 810. If it is RC4, they're trying their usual stall tactic, claiming they never got 1099 forms because they didn't show up in the IRMF. So, best way to combat that is the 911 packet, and probably also amortized filings for the present tax year, like most recent tax year.
Okay.
Yeah, and
you need a CAF number for the 911 packet, or should we from now on just go with the CAF number and use that, the 4506 packet and the 911 every time now?
Yeah, I'd say use the CAF number. Yeah, use the CAF number and the 4506T packet every single time now. Just use that whole protocol that I posted in the 1099 OID Solutions channel.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna take a look at it and try, work on getting that done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so I see a question which says, once I have a foreign grantor trust, what information does my natural name need in order to open an international Charles Schwab account? Will my natural name need a driver's license and passport from the foreign country, or does the foreign grantor trust EIN serve as the only information necessary to open the Schwab account? Finally, if the natural name needs additional ID information from the foreign country, how should I go about getting these items? So they ask for a passport for the natural name, but they do not specify which country has to be the issuer for the passport. I was about to, before I got into this AI conversation, I was about to call Schwab and see if I could just do a cold opening using my world passport that I just got. So I was going to experiment with different passports. And remember, as a basically, foreign bank, we hold the power to just issue passports to ourselves as needed. These can be tribal passports, these can be Moorish passports, they can be world passports, they can be foreign tribal passports. There is also the Paraguay passport, which can actually be issued to foreigners who establish a bank account in Paraguay and can show 2 years of bank statements. They just give passports and resident cards to people through Paraguay embassies. Any sort of personal passport documentation should fulfill Charles Schwab's initial account opening requirements in terms of who the control person is for that account. One thing I was thinking of experimenting on was having like registered agents open the accounts, or perhaps attempting like foreigner-owned LLC accounts at conventional banks with IRS Form W8BEN to achieve the same effect of having private banking and an international trust checking account opened at any bank. But passports can come from a lot of places. However, Schwab asks for some kind of passport. But I do know of one person who actually opened a Schwab account on here using completely dummy information. He was actually out of Poland. So I believe the passport requirements at Schwab are actually very lax. You may want to test this on their website by just going to international.schwab.com, but I believe the passport requirement there is very lax.
Hey, David.
Yes.
Hey, everyone. Hello, everyone. So I got my CAF number in the mail, and I called the IRS this week. I think the practitioner line, and I tried to download the transcripts because I sent in the 4506-T packet, and they asked me for the EIN of the payer for the transcripts I'm trying to download. But they said I gave them the wrong entity name. So is there any way to verify what the IRS's records are for a specific entity name and like see if it matches a certain EIN? Because they're not letting me pass this gate to download those transcripts until I give them the precise entity name of the payer on the OID.
Right. Yes, that is very common. And the right way to get that is to give entity names and basically ask them on different phone calls, is this correct? Is this correct? Is this correct? Until they tell you it's correct for the EIN that you gave them. And that's how you know the proper entity name.
Bingo. I was going to do that. I was going to do like a process of elimination or something like that.
Exactly.
But great. Thank you kindly for that suggestion. Thank you so much.
And Baby Twin, to answer some of your messages to me over our DMs, if you wanted to download the OID packet and any of the other packets that we have here in the server, those are available on the documents channel. Just go to #documents and then search for the word 1099 OID in there, and it should just pull that up for you if you just wanted to directly get that from the server.
Thank you.
Also welcome. Okay, so Chris is asking, can I recap really quickly? For existing 810 codes for 2024, we're still following 4506T911 protocol. Yes, that is correct. The new protocol I was explaining was for tax years moving forward. And they represent the fastest, most efficient way to bypass the 810 code algorithm entirely using CAF unit verified data for all 1099 filings and return filings. Any updates on my 9/11 submission? I've not yet been contacted, but 30 days from when they gave me the stamp, I'm probably going to call the tasks back to ask if there are any updates, specifically whether a case number has been assigned and whether a task representative has been assigned. And I'm going to try to contact that person. I'll just turn over my whole packet to them and basically just flash their own IRS.gov records in their face and see if I can get them to do some manual overriding for the 810 code. Courtney, it's good to see you again. I think it's been quiet on your end, but it's good to see you.
Hey,
again.
How are you?
Hello, hello.
Thank you.
Okay, David. So I have a question. How are you doing today?
I'm cruising in a very cruising mood. It's the word that comes to mind.
Okay, so were you speaking right now of the 9/11 packet that you just took in the other day? You're waiting on them to assign you someone to your case, basically?
Yes, that was when I personally
Gotcha.
walked into the task center in Atlanta and handed them the completed 9/11 packet. And then later, after that, is when I had the conversation with AI about like future tax year 1099 OID filings, and that was what I was kind
And
of.
how to just avoid all that process together, basically.
Yes, correct. Chalice Man asking an excellent question. Given the increased sophistication level, should we still stay under 1.5 million per 1040 filing? That is very subjective, because I feel like the whole like JCT review, I feel like they're not even this sophisticated in being able to say there's anything wrong with the returns or even use their existing hold implementation procedures. I do think they probably have an automated hold still for any refund claim higher than 2.5 million on personal returns. So for any amounts higher than that, I always recommend using some sort of entity, whether that is a foreign grantor trust or perhaps a domestic holding company that has its own tax return transcript and can basically perform the equivalent of the protocol we talked about at the beginning of the call for its corporate transcript. So 2 million is safe. Yeah, I think 2 million would probably be safe. Hey Chris, was there a question or was there just background noise? Okay. Yes, this is a whole new language. What I would recommend, just while you're in the group, go to we do have the vault that actually has our prior recorded calls and can actually start listening to some of those just to kind of like pick up the language behind it. There's a lot of information to unpack just in the whole process and how the whole thing works, how like debt refunds work and things like that. So I would definitely recommend just in the channels go to recorded calls, and that'll have our vault of prior recordings to just like pick up on some of the language, and also like just look through the messaging history that we have specifically in the 1099 OID solutions channel, and that's the main text channel from the server for this topic. That'll also just kind of give use context behind some of the language. It is rather technical. Oh, the 1099 video. Okay, so when I say the 1099 video on Patreon, I'm referring to the video that's published on the YouTube channel. It's titled How to Receive a Refund for All Your Debt in 90 Days Using 1099 OID Non-Negotiable Chargeback Remedy. That is posted on the YouTube channel. So that was what I was referring to when I was saying the 1099 video. It's just on the YouTube for the 98 Trust Administrator Masterclass. Also, for my 9/11 packet, I went to information return documents on IRS.gov, and actually I got the screenshots of the 1099 OID recipient copy they have posted there, and I included that in the 9/11 packet as well. So they can never say that their system doesn't have the 1099 OID recorded in it. And now I'm just awaiting a response. My strategy with IRS is just flash them their own records whenever they try to challenge our returns. And usually that'll rebut any sort of thing they could try to say is allegedly unverifiable about them. Oh, okay, I'm gonna post a link to the 1099 OID video just for those who haven't seen it. I think most people here probably have. I'm just gonna post a link to that. And also the article, because there is an article which mainly includes content from the video, but I'll just post that as well. And I also need to change some of the some of the URLs. Yeah, I'm also overhauling 98 Trust Administrator Masterclass.com. But the link I just posted contains the video. I'm also going to post the YouTube link. Also going to post the YouTube link for that, just so anyone could go back and watch it. Oh, hey, wow, it actually embeds. Look at that. That is cool. Here's also the YouTube link. It's with me in the dragon costume for edutainment purposes.
David, quick question.
Yes.
now that I have my CAF number and I'm going to the IRS to download the withholding payers transcripts, what is the exact transcripts that I want to get from the withholding payer? Is it their record of account transcripts? Is that what I asked the IRS for?
Yes, you're going to request their record of account transcripts as well as their income tax transcript, which is usually their 1120 or 1120L transcript, as well as their 945 return transcripts for the tax years in which the 1099 OIDs were filed.
Okay, so just to confirm that, I'm going to be asking for the withholding payers' record of account transcripts and their income tax transcripts, such as their 1120 and 945.
Correct.
So 3 things.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure. Okay, E-Rate is asking, is there a quick and easy passport service could use to have the name issued a passport from someplace such as Panama, receive a Native American, foreign national, whatever works? I think it may be easy to get a driver's license in Panama and attempting to get this process started ASAP. I think the Panama passport's a real good idea, or Panama driver's license. I use the World Passport Service, and I can link that. I know the Moorish Nation also issues passports as well. So these are just passport service providers I can think of off the top of my head. I will link the World Passport as well. This was what I used. And I actually carry one of these. And this, they can get it to you within like 10 days. It's very fast. I'm just saying this because personally in my mind, I don't want to be registered into the US passport system. I think that creates a straw man. So I was looking at the World Passport and also the United Nations laissez-passer, which is diplomatic, just in terms of personal status correction. And we've had a lot of calls about that. Okay, Jeff is asking, for people who just filed their 1099 OIDs this year for 24 and received copies B back only but have not had a transcript update or any 10 codes, what's the next most efficient step? I would get a CAF number process going in the background for like getting all the 4506T transcripts that we talked about, just so you have those at the ready. And I would also just get prepared to submit returns at the very least based on the existing 1099 OIDs. I think they'd at least be worth a shot. And I would also confirm with the CAF units that the payer's taxpayer identification number information for your existing OIDs match their transcripts. I would say confirm that as well. And also get started on 2025 as well.
Thanks for that answer, David. Appreciate it.
Okay, so I have another question. So as far as the OIDs, I did a couple for 2023. You're saying as long as everything matches, we can do amortization taxes for 2025 and pick that up instead of going back doing a 1040 X, correct?
Correct. Okay, so what Nico is saying, where Rep told them before they have a system where all the payments that are paid are assigned to an SSN or an EIN, so if that's not in the system, they can't verify any withholding. That's the IRMF. There is no, like, backup withholding tax payment to end recipient index or queue used by the IRS, because the batches produced by such a queue would be too big and too cumbersome for individual payers to properly file taxes on. That would be like asking a corporation to individually track down all of its shareholders, each person who's trading its stocks, and file a specific 1099 form for each person. The corporations do not have the resources to file their taxes like that. So what the representative was actually referring to for Cianico's question was the IRMF database, is what they were actually referring to. So Beverly's asking, once we get a CAF number, we can use that number for any company we OID, and does that CAF number never expire? Correct and correct. That CAF number can be used for any company that we're going to file 1099 OIDs for, and it should not expire. Just list the same CAF number on future 2848 and 8821s when pulling transcripts, and single CAF number can be used for multiple companies by just reusing it. So E-Raid is asking, so just so we're 100% clear, the World Passport will be for the natural name that intend to use both with Schwab bank account and foreign grantor trust. Is this correct? Yes, that is correct. Okay, so Chris is asking, can I briefly explain, if our foreign grantor trust gets assigned the CAF number, but the name of the trust does not contain our SSN name, how do you get them to allow the 4506T disclosures? What form links the FGT to the straw man, if that makes sense? There's not a form which does that. So when the CAF number is assigned to the foreign trust, in that example, any person could call the CAF unit and identify themselves as an employee for the trust, give the trust's CAF number, and then that person would be able to access all transcript authorizations under that CAF number, because they're basically calling on behalf of the trust. And that wouldn't just be one strawman, that would be any person who is calling and uses that CAF number when they talk to the IRS CAF unit. Beverly asks, so if they can't see anything we OID in the W&I transcripts on an amended return now, close the claim, we can still 911 packets and upload to TAS, or just resubmit the amended over again and restart the process even if TAS couldn't see it. Could do all of the above. I think that if you have the updated W&I transcript and an amended return posted for that transcript, and they're saying they, quote, can't see, unquote, something, I would just file the amended 911 packet with all of the 4506T docs and send it to TAS. So now we're basically slamming the IRS employees' heads against their own computer and saying, read your records, tap, 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 if they're saying they can't see it. It's better to upload or take in person. That is a good question. I think in-person task case initiation is probably the most reliable and fastest way to actually get a case opened. I called in advance of my appointments, and the first representative I spoke to was extremely belligerent and rude towards me and hung up the phone when I started asking procedural questions, but the next representative just scheduled the appointment. So I think an in-person contact should happen, and then when that in-person contact is established, hand them the 911 packet. And then E-Raid is asking, how can we get the CAF number assigned to the foreign trust? Follow the 4506T packets that I posted in the documents channel, and where it says designee or representative, list the foreign trust as the representative or designee. And that'll be for all forms in the 4506T packet. So 2848 and 8821, those will assign the CAF number to the trust, and then can use 4506T for paper transcript requests, or use the secure object repository to get those digitally delivered. So what it sounds like Nico would want to do is get into the CAF system. I think he'd have a lot of fun with that, because when you pull the 4506T transcripts, you can see everything. You can see the payer's TIN, you can see their federal tax payment history, you can see their 945 return history, and it's basically full account access. I think once you have a CAF number there, you can actually authorize payments off of the corporation's EFTPS account. And I've not tested that yet, but it is like opening the vaults and just peering into the IRS and seeing all the private accounting ledgers there. Yes, CAF numbers can see records for any company, at least any company in the CAF units database. I was having an interesting conversation. I think one person, they were saying like certain banks didn't file the returns, but the parent companies did, and the CAF unit could see those. But there was like a separate nonprofit department for like nonprofits or like certain type of agencies. But nonprofits, all their tax returns are actually public. Like there's a like 508c1a that shows their returns under their TINs for nonprofits. But generally, the CAF unit can see 99% of all companies' tax records. Is CAF on Iris? That is a good question. I believe CAF records are also available in Tax Pro. I have just had a lot of difficulty with the pins in Tax Pro for whatever reason, because when you try to link CAF numbers there, currently the website crashes. But how I've still pulled records electronically is I've just used the secure object repository from IRS.gov. Okay, we're asking if the trust is in the all caps name and we apply for any credit, we usually use first letter capitalized and the lowercase. Get denied because the names aren't matching and we're not applying with corporate name all caps. So what's interesting about corporate credit is usually foreign trusts have a lot of difficulty getting approved for that because they assumptively have a foreign control person that has no, like, personal guarantor with a FICO score. But the domestic holding companies can actually create a Dun & Bradstreet business credit profile, and we can switch out who the control person is or personal guarantor is so they can still get corporate credit by having like a trust-owned domestic holding company. And I think when we roll out like the tribal birth certificate CPNs, that's going to create a whole nother set of options there for just creating like faceless corporate credit profiles. Okay, E-Rate is asking, former employer took off the schedule and refused to pay for 2 weeks of work already completed. How could I OID them for the money they owe, or is there a different process? Okay, so save the W-2, which the employer gave, and then run that through the CAF unit protocol that we just posted today, and then can just OID the difference for that. Okay, which AI platform? It was ChatGPT. but it wasn't the normal chat GPT who will tell you there's no such thing as a sovereign citizen results. I gave it, like, I think most of the 9/11 packet, and I asked, what do you make of this? And it started revealing everything to me. I was like, wow, it just told me things it probably didn't realize it told me.
So David, quick question, just clarification on something.
Yes.
So we're downloading these transcripts in order to show that the withholding payer made payments to the IRS, correct?
Yes.
Well, what exactly constitutes those payments? What are those payments? What do they represent?
It's the negative number that appears on the 945 return transcript. They represent the refunds due on your return. That's what those payments represent.
Right, but I'm trying to connect in my mind why a payment made to the IRS from the withholding payer balances out the refund on my recoupment side.
Because that's your money they paid to the IRS.
The ashtray is still outside. It's on that thing where the fire is at. No, right when you walk out the door, where that big wood thing is, somebody put right there. It's on that thing. It's not on the wood thing. It's behind it, so the wind wouldn't hit it. And you welcome.
All right. Okay, it muted. Okay. So all of these withholding payers paid your money to the U.S. Treasury, and you're just going to the U.S. Treasury to go get it back, is what's going on. They paid it on their income tax return, like all those prepaid accounts and overpayment credits, like when we were showing the return for Walmart. So you're going into the IRS to just get that back.
But you're saying they paid, but I always thought that I paid, and I'm just recouping the credit that they use. That's the mental model I'm kind of working with.
That is correct. That's consistent with what I just explained. The way that is represented in the accounting ledgers is it's the negative number on their 945 transcript, and also the negative number that would appear on your return transcripts, because whenever there's a negative number on any sort of tax transcript, that represents a payment of taxes. That's what that represents.
So they're paying in a negative number? Is that kind of what you're saying? They're paying a negative number?
So whenever you see a negative number on any tax return or tax transcript, that number represents a payment of taxes. That can refer to individual payment amounts. That can also refer to the net balance on the tax return itself. If the net balance is negative, that means the return overpaid its tax liability, and now the IRS owes the filer for that return a refund. And then individual negative numbers in the payment sections refer to tax payments that are being recorded on the returns themselves. So I'll just briefly explain how tax withholding works. Tax withholding is basically when a third-party payer, such as the entities we're listing as the payer in the Forms 1099 OID, they take some of the income they paid you, and then they pay that to the IRS as an assumptive tax. And when they do that, you're supposed to receive tax credits for those amounts, and if they are an overpayment of taxes, a tax refund for those amounts. Everyday people run into withholdings when they have jobs and they get issued a Form W-2 from their employer, which shows withholdings. That is their tax payments, which are effectively being made by a second party, and the existence of that second party creates a fiduciary relationship or trust. So that is why all 1099 withholdings are considered Class 5 gift and estate taxes. They are tax payments that are effectively made by the trustee of a trust, which is another person than you. But you still have a fiduciary trustee relationship with them, and they are basically making IRS payments on your behalf.
But what are they paying taxes on? My credit? The use of my credit? Is that what they're paying taxes for?
Okay, on the 945, they're paying taxes on their backup withholding tax liability. So any positive number for their net balance on their 945 return. If this is about sovereign transactions, they're basically trying to steal your exemption or original credit as the principal and use it for their own tax returns when it was supposed to go to yours. That's what they're doing. Okay, so to answer some of the chat questions, it may be useful to take the info I shared with ChatGPT and get multiple second AI opinions. No, matching info from various sources. Nice. Yeah, I very carefully look at the information that the AI is telling me, and I look for new stuff that I might not have seen before. And it gave me a lot of new stuff. It told me all about the IRMF and also about cross-module transfers, which I hadn't heard of until that point. So it was telling me things that it didn't realize it was telling me. E-Raid's asking, the process that I posted today under 1099 OID solutions, followed that in order to recoup funds from the employer? Yes. Would just get the employer's transcripts, and then once you have all that, can go OID the snot out of them. But might want to use a trust or like third-party corporation so they don't know that you were the one who did that. 1-2 is asking, we don't have the CUSIP number for the court case. Can we list the case number as a CUSIP number? Yeah, probably, or like as the account number. The IRS does not read account numbers and CUSIP numbers from the account number field or box 7 of the Form 1099 OID. They're only interested in TIN records. So we're asking, why are companies leaving a gap for us to swoop in and OID them because they don't think we know? Yeah, and because they would have to use the same mechanism in order to run an automated for-profit corporation or abandoned computer theory of incarceration or indebtedness. And as long as those people want to run such organizations amok, this hole in the fence remains open. IRS wants you to do their job for them and show the whole story so they can easily release credits. Yes, that is correct. We are doing the IRS's whole job for them. And as for taking power of attorney over these companies in care of your name, the credits start rolling to you too. Yes, I have seen that done. In some cases, they'll actually start issuing the refund checks to the CAF number. In some cases. But we're trying to get this on our own transcripts. Setmore.ai, brightyou.ai, it tends to tell more of the truth. It's very interesting. I guess the AI I was speaking with did not understand that it was moving against its own censorship algorithm. It kind of started trying to steer the conversation in that direction, but already divulged all the stuff I would need to know in order to get around it. So I asked it these questions fast enough to just bypass the censorship algorithm. Because if you ask an IRS employee any of these things over the phone, they'll say, we can't tell you how we conduct investigations behind the scene. You're not supposed to know about the IRMF, because they're trained to F over taxpayers and make them pay things that they do not owe. Yes, the IRS is doing all of this too. They are doing all of this too. And it only happens because people let it happen. Checks just comes to you, no filing or the company filing. That involves the Form 56 and actually showing up as like a registered fiduciary on the corporation. That'll actually make the IRS start sending the checks to the registered like fiduciary or representative is what that'll do. And might also need to actually take over the business address on their accounts. So there's another form for that. It is the 8822B. I'm not really going to post a template for that. If like wanted, I could maybe share it privately, but that's just because that's like kind of separate from what we're doing with the OIDs. A CUSIP tracing video is still in the works. The whole thing is like still in the works. It's like hours and hours of development and stuff. So I got like the website to update. I got the CUSIP tracing video. I got more things after that. It's just coming out and coming out. We can always donate to get it done faster. I just opened a new subscription level, which is Priority Inbox Subscriber on Patreon, if anyone hasn't seen that yet. But it's like, imagine the phone calls where we on my Setmore calendar, but through DMs, because a lot of the stuff it's like creating documents and more elaborate procedural pathways. So if you're interested in like consulting through DMs, like through the Setmore thing, join that like new Patreon subscription level that I just added. It's called Priority Inbox Subscriber, and that's a new subscriber level on Patreon for the 98 Trust Administrator Masterclass. And the problem with IRS employees is they are trained to recite the script provided to them out of the IRM. And that IRM script literally says, hang up on the taxpayer when they say this. Do not respond to the taxpayer. Advise the taxpayer whatever it is going to take 90 more days. It's very predatory. So when you start busting up the script and they get caught in an illogical situation, they'll often act aggressively towards you without actually like doing their job. And it's annoying when that happens. Just hang up and call again and talk to someone better. Okay, getting asked if submitting a 1099 OID against a payer for a denied credit application, how would we compute our calculations if there's not an amount on the application? Think of that as the amount of credit you estimate you would have had the application been approved. We assess the value of the court case. Gene Keating had a formula for that, where we used the classify of gift and estate tax credits tables from IRS publications 559 and 950. And then every user of the name is technically liable for that sum of taxes. That was how he calculated it, and considering what those people do, I consider that more than fair. It's like $11 million per head. the credit denial letter, usually that works when the CFPB is used as a avenue to serve the letter on the company who denied the application. And on some occasions it'll work, on other occasions it won't work. It depends on who's processing the credit application. I also wanted to offer credit restoration service on the site as well. That is in the queue. $1040X submitted through the fire system. Will not process any forms. November till January. That is normal. That is normal. I'm not sure if the e-filers can still submit returns. Like, is that on IRS.gov or is that a separate e-filer?
This was on 1099, Tax 1099.
Oh, for OIDs.
Correct.
I have never seen that before. Like, annual maintenance, that is normal. But I've never seen that on tax1099.com. Damn.
Yeah, I had come up as soon as I hit submit, that message came up, and I had to hit OK in order to submit it. So it's submitted on Tax 1099, but it won't get accepted by the IRS till January 7th, I guess.
Yeah, I would just start on a CAF packet while waiting, is what I would do.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, David, question, brother.
Yes.
Do you offer any type of, additional services to do that 911 packet? Like if you were to do it for somebody?
I'll say we are rolling that out.
Appreciate you, bro.
Don't the IRS have the OIDs where you can do them on their website?
Yes, that's through Iris.
So, instead of that, doing it, because I have the 1099 on .com too. But if the IRS have them, then why don't you just go straight there and cut out the middleman?
That might work. Might work. Definitely check Iris and see if they're still accepting OIDs at this time.
Okay, I'm gonna go.
Hey, David, I have a question, but it's off this topic. And I know we'll get back to it because I need to hear more about OIDs. But in the mail today, I received it's a second notice of a school zone I've got to answer by December the 16th. And what I can say is that I was not the driver. It's not asking me if I knew the driver, but I am not the driver. I am also in trust. The car is not yet, but I am in trust. And I'm also trademarked. What kind of fun can I have with this ticket? I yield.
Could probably just not respond to it because there's not been any evidence you actually served it, and just watch the court record, and if there's no summons returned served, just walk away. That is the type of fun you could have with it.
Okay, because sometimes they play a game and I kind of play along. It is saying that you need to respond by this date or that you will not be able to register a car.
Is that from a court or from a traffic?
Oh, it's just the traffic cameras down by the way that I guess because of where we are here in Georgia, they must use something because where I'd be paying this is in Florida.
So here is the fun you could have. Register the car to a trust, where it's not the name they are affiliating with the ticket.
Awesome.
David, just to confirm, that other method of the OID filing is directly on the IRS.gov page?
Yes, that is through IRIS. Just Google IRS.gov, IRIS, like two separate words, and that the e-filer for it should show up. We also have a guide on how to set up an IRIS account in the documents channel, so that can walk you through how to get there as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, David, this is a two-bit minor over here about that ticket. This is something I've done and it works, and I have to explain why it works. Someone gets a ticket, you get a red magic marker, and you write 3-inch high letters on it, on the front of it, not me, wrong person, no contract. And then you make sure you got a photocopy of it, and you send it to them certified mail. Certified mail means they can't say they lost it or you didn't send it. That means that somebody had to sign for it. Works every time. Why this works is they're suing your trust, not you. And they have to, before they move forward on anything, you have to admit what you are. It's a way of tricking you into getting jurisdiction on it. And I've done this repeatedly, and it works. And I know someone is retired military. He got a ticket, went down the courthouse the next day, turned it in, and walked away, and never heard anything again. So I've done it, and it's a little trick that it's not really a trick. It's just common law. Over.
Thank you.
Yes, my private calls are on Setmore, and DM consultations are for the new Patreon subscription level that is priority inbox subscriber. It's available on Patreon.
Hey, David,
Hello.
when you suggest putting When you suggest putting the car in a trust other than your name that you got the ticket in, so that process looks like what? So your straw man, social security number, all caps name, on the back of the title that you get from the state, you just sell it to a trust, as in a person's first and last name can be a trust, or the trust can have any kind of a name and doesn't necessarily need an EIN.
I would title the vehicle to the foreign grantor trust, and all DMVs have a form by which to do that.
Okay, so then the foreign grantor trust can also be a name. Like if I wanted my name to be the foreign grantor trust, or I'll just use an alias, Sierra Jones Esquire is literally my foreign grantor trust, because your trust can be anything. It doesn't have to be like a company name, like Toys R Us. It can literally be the name of a person. So I guess my question is, when you go to title the car in that name, if it's the name of a company or a business, it seems like it would be a little harder to get a title versus if it was like an actual first and last name or a first, middle, initial, last name.
Ask about like company vehicle registration next time you go to a DMV, and they'll tell you exactly what you need to know.
Right, so that's the question. So when you go to the DMV, you're asking, how do I put my car in a trust, or how do I sell my car to my trust, or how do I put my car in, or am I transfer my car? Like, what's the correct wordage of what you're trying to do, which is the least amount of taxes, or the path of least resistance, I would say.
It's about company-owned vehicles. Tell them, I'm trying to title my car to my company. What forms would I need in order to do that?
Oh, and then it's commercial insurance and commercially owned. So then your company can have several, like a fleet of vehicles.
Yes. When the company.
And then I guess, are you looking at DOT, like getting a DOT number and having it insured that way, or bonded insured? Like, how are you insuring something like that?
Okay, so I'll say stay away from the DOT numbers. That's gotten more people in here arrested single-handedly than anything else. So stay away from the DOT plates. But insurance, it's possible to purchase normal insurance if you want normal insurance, or create your own insurance company and say that's the insurance. Just a lot of different options there.
I got you. And then if you really are in an accident, you need to be bonded in some form of fashion. If you're self-insuring with your self-proposed company and your self-letterhead that's doing your binder, then when something happens, you need to also be able to take care of that.
Oh yeah, it's if you want normal car insurance, there can be normal car insurance. If you just want your own private insurance, it's possible to create private insurance.
Right.
Or proof of insurance.
I got you.
It's possible to create proof of insurance.
So when you say the DOT number has gotten people pulled over or in jail, is it probably because they're having the DOT number on their plate as their plate, or those or diplomatic plates, or fake plates, or just
it's
plate?
I've seen all sorts of combinations. I've seen people try to use the DOT number as the plate number. I've seen them have a plate that says private and then the DOT number under the word private. Any of that stuff.
Seen all those?
Yeah, that single-handedly has gotten more people in here arrested than anything else.
So what's the best way?
Trust.
Or what's the better way?
Plates. You want trust plates. So that if the police were to look up the vehicle in their system, it's going to link back to a trust, not to a person.
Okay. And there's paperwork for that specific to each state, maybe?
Yeah, specific for each DMV.
So then are you still saying to look at it as commercial, but it's the trust that's holding the commercial is commercialness, or are those two different ways to do it? You can hold it commercially or you can hold it with trust,
They're going to look at
where the trust is commercially.
They're going to look at the trust as the owner of the car,
which then requires commercial insurance.
Yeah, from an insurance perspective. If we're still wanting to put like conventional everyday insurance on there, like Geico.
Yeah, because when you're at the motor vehicle, they won't let you, like, you need the title signed over if you're going to do a transaction, let's just say. You need a title signed over on the back or assigned to whomever. You need a bill of sale. You need the lien release if there's a lien on the vehicle. And then you need it to be inspected by the state. And then you need insurance. All of those, and then you walk to the DMV and, like, here's my, like, little starter package to get my car registered properly to my trust. So it's like all those things have to kind of be in play, or at least a binder number for the insurance aspect of it if you were actually going to go to a tag and title place or...
Yeah, I guess the title would also need to be free and clear, but like, what are we trying to do? Are we simply trying to transfer the vehicle title into a trust, or are we trying to put like actual normal insurance on there? Because we can walk into a DMV and have proof of insurance without having actual insurance. But
I guess that passes all checks and balances, though. So you walk in with your documentation. You have all the documentations on the list. Each thing has a check next to it. You sit down in front of a little old lady, and you get the transaction done, and you leave there with the transaction with a registration that has it to the trust and hard plates of some sort that are good for the next however amount of time before you have to re-register it or whatever. And they don't check that in any way, shape, or form that your insurance is actually your insurance. I don't know. Like, there's no checks and balances that you got to worry about them. Like, hey, hold on 1 second. And then they go back into the door and you know, gigs up. I got how to use the bathroom all of a sudden or something. Like, what's going on here? No.
Okay, just create your own insurance company, like as a private Wyoming S corporation, and call it Once Upon the Bag Insurance Company, and then have it create like a proof of insurance letter in ChatGPT, and that is proof of insurance.
Oh yeah, I understand. I'm picking up what you're laying down. I understand completely. It's just the checks and balances at the spot of trying to get my motor vehicle registration. Once Upon the Bag is not anywhere in anybody's system as an insurance company. What am I, the new carrier on the block? You know.
Yep, new company. It's private insurance.
I just got my Series 7.
It's a private.
I gotcha.
Yeah, it's a private insurance company.
I gotcha. But to do it in all legitimate fashion, you do need to look at it from a commercial standpoint, and your trust is that commercial entity. So then you need to make your trust an actual corporation that has an EIN in order to pull things off like that, and then it's no longer private because you've now given it an EIN and brought it into the public.
Well, DMV is not going to look at EINs, and furthermore,
I think insurance, though, in order to be commercially and get like an insurance with Hartford or the Hartford commercial auto insurance, they are going to need an EIN or a guarantee, or
well, yeah,
PG or something.
That's for normal insurance companies. If we want to just go to normal insurance companies, just purchase conventional commercial insurance for the trust.
But then the trust does need an EIN, is what I'm saying. The trust is no longer super private at that point. Well, you need a trust that's your operating trust, or your trust that's your. Okay.
Yeah, that's like the difference between a ministry trust and a foreign grantor trust. A ministry trust has no EIN. But I'm saying just title the car to a foreign grantor trust with a 98 number.
And I just look like an Irish settler.
Yep.
Getting my company started here in the Americas.
Yeah, you're an Irish company, and this is the vehicles owned by the Irish company.
I understand. I got that. Okay. And so at the motor vehicle, there is such form that I need to look up, or I can't do that online?
Call them.
foreign grantor trusts, or I'm just saying foreign commercial policy registration. Bringing my car from Ireland to the Americas. Bringing my company from Ireland to the Americas.
Yep. It's Ireland company vehicles.
So there's certain things that you suggest doing and operating in commerce with your foreign grantor trust as the like, and then your ministry trust is your private of all privates, and you don't operate in commerce with that, so therefore it doesn't need to be brought into the public. How does it hold your assets then? Because in order to get a bank account and things like that, you need an EIN. So your ministry trust doesn't hold your assets either.
I feel like the point of the ministry trust is actually to avoid taxes, because what the ministry trust is, that can generate like tax deductible donation receipts, and then those can be presented as a means of claiming like charitable deductions and a few other kinds as well. That's actually very common.
Got it. So are you one of those that think that you need the banker's EIN, the foreign grantors, and the estate? Do you think that you need those 3 EIN entities working in tandem?
I feel like the theory of a private banker's EIN is a crock of ish, but I'm not sure what we're doing with the private banker's EIN number, or even whether that's even.
I don't think it's just for the banker's acceptance and making sure that your bill of exchange also kind of can have a banker's acceptance with it, or for large transactions, and even to get access to the window, you could have your banker's EIN or your private banker's entity making all of those transactions versus exposing your ministry trust or exposing your foreign grantor trust to even those type of transactions. So it's like each entity has its role and where you would use it in commerce, and you use the correct entity for the correct things.
David, comment?
Yes.
Okay, I was a trustee to a friend of mine in California for his vehicles. And this is, states can vary a little bit, I assume, but this is much more easy. It's not commerce, it's not commercial. You can just have a private trust with a trustee, and you go to your insurance company and tell them, I want to have this transferred to a trust, and find out, what is required. Or you can go down the DMV and wait in line. But the insurance company or something like that, they do this all the time. And you just transfer it into your private trust. You want to make sure your insurance is covered. Obviously, the DMV is going to want that. And you just go about it. You're not in commerce. You got to understand the law screws around with definitions. Like somebody that's in show business or a politician. Well, they're a public person. They're not a private person. See, they're tricking you because they're referring to your public trust, which, they got you into it with the birth certificate, versus being private. You have the choice. So you have to volunteer to be public. You can have your trust for the car private. You don't have to be in commerce. Commerce exposes you.
Yeah. I think I understand what you're saying, but even in what you're saying there's still a trustee. So the trustee is the one that's going and getting this insurance. The trustee is the one that's signing on the line as representative of Once Upon the Bag.
Correct.
So
and I did that.
I can't do it. Right. So you still need a person is pretty much a first, middle, last name.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got to have somebody you trust. But see, if you do it for somebody and they do it for you, you just have to deal with reputable people. It depends how much your vehicle is worth too.
Yeah, but your trust could also be your name dealer at the end of it. And then it makes it super easy because your name's going to come up in most instances. You just got to give your ID, and the trust is your name. So that's kind of like.
Well, there's one thing I would say about that. When they're going to, if somebody is carrying out an action from the court against you, what do? They get your name and social security number or whatever, and they run it through the computers. And any property that comes up with your name on it, bingo, you own a house, you own cars, you own a motorcycle, whatever that, then, you know, somebody's got a claim against you and they get it executed by the court order, they can work it against you. If somebody does a search with Google or something and for some reason your trust name is the same as your name, then somebody, you know, if it's a lawyer and it's a big case or whatever, they can say, well, that you use this trust to avoid them having authority over you. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but I would advise having the trust, you know, could call it, you know, Golden Tree Vehicle Trust, whatever you want to call it, and just have somebody else do it and sign it and make sure it's insured. And they do it all the time. This is not, you know, it's not like, you know, one person a month comes in and does that. This is done all the time.
Yeah,
so that would be my suggestion.
I understand it. I understand it, but ultimately, once upon a bag can't have. So people are like, "Oh, I put it in trust. My car is in trust." You like say it so casual and like that's supposed to stop the hounds that are coming after you. Like, I got a ticket, but the car is in trust. You still have to have certain ways of how you got it into trust. So there's still a person. There's either a registered agent, or there's the trustee, or there's somebody that they got to be doing dealings with. They just need to leave you alone. You know, you can just point them in the other direction.
People that aren't doing anything that we're doing, they're all public. Their name in all caps is part of the trust. And they own a house, they got it in their trust name, they got the vehicles in their name, and people can go after them, and you're exposed.
And they're losing everything. Yeah, there's no anonymity that way.
Well, there's no protection.
Yeah.
There's no protection. I mean, some hot shot lawyer come after you, and if you work, 30 years or so, I mean, he can pretty much clean you out if they want to. So you've got, in the way the legal system is today, in my opinion, you've got to do this to protect yourself. As I said, I was a trustee for a friend of mine, worked out great. He moved to Florida, and I transferred it over, and he did something else with it from then. So
I got that. So you were driving around in the car that was held in trust with your friend as the trustee?
No. I was the trustee to his vehicles.
So he was driving around in the car to where if they had any problems with him, then they needed to see you, or the letter came to you, or paperwork came to you, and then as a trustee, you needed to take care of it.
What a trustee would do, a trustee is responsible to a certain degree, not necessarily financially, unless there's, they steal something from the trust, or they do something criminally. But they're not going to do that. It doesn't work that way with the courts. They go after your name, and that's one thing the courts do. I'll tell you a little story if David will let me. All you will like this. We met a girl from. She was a French Canadian, and she was in Beverly Hills, and she got a speeding ticket. She went down to the court, and a judge came out, and she announced to everyone in the court, she says, "I'm going to ask you to come up here. And if you tell me that this is not you, then we'll handle it a different way." So she listened very carefully. The judge repeated it twice in Beverly Hills.
If you tell me that this is not you, we'll handle it a different way. It's pretty generic. I like that. Okay.
So she listened very carefully to what the judge says. And she went up there. And the judge asked her, "Is this you?" And she said, "No, Your Honor, it's not me." And the judge looked at it. And then she looked at the back of the page. The back of the page is the most important, because guess what? That's where things get endorsed. So it was all blank. The judge said to the court, "Well, there's nothing here." And she passed the paper on and said, "Next." And the girl walked out.
There's nothing here.
Right. You see, but everyone else went up there and said, "Is this you?" And they said, "Yes." Matter of fact, if you cross the bar in the courtroom, that's called crossing the galley. And when you do that, you're given the court jurisdiction. So you can do what they call a special appearance. This is just another thing, and I've done this many times, where special appearance, you don't have to go into court. You're stating usually jurisdiction. They got to have jurisdiction over you before anything's done. So you do a special appearance, you mark on the paperwork on the top, special appearance, say, Your Honor, this is not so-and-so, this is not factual, I wasn't driving, I wasn't in the car, whatever, and they have to rule on it.
I heard they're no longer honoring special appearance, though. Special appearance is not something that's being honored anymore. There's another way you have to go about it, but I forget what it is.
Well, I understand, because they think that they can get away with it, and who's going to stop them? We've got a legal system where all the way up the court system, I mean, they're just covering for each other, and they can basically do whatever they want, which is all the more reason to have a private trust. And you can just, if somebody asks you, it says Christmas tree golden trust, or whatever you want to call it, right? And you just tell them, oh, it's in a trust. And the only way they could nail you, although all don't, is you got to have another trustee. If you don't want to be the trustee of it to really cover yourself.
Yeah, that's the only way to throw it the other way. You have to have full anonymity and get what you're trying to get out of the whole thing. You do have to have a trustee that's not you. You can't have it both ways. So
well, you could, but you can get called on it. That's the thing. But the point I'm trying to make is that with the court system, they run it through the computers, and if it's your name and your social, you're part of the trust. See, that's another thing. That's why. I don't mean to get political here, but by new Democrats, when they get into Congress, we want to make Washington, D.C. a state, and we want to make Puerto Rico a state. Okay, and they can't do it. If they did it, they'd have complete control. Why? Because the trust is the 48 states originally, and the trustee is down in Puerto Rico. So what I'm trying to do is they trick you on the definitions, and you've got to, like David's very good at that. You've got to know what you are and who you are. I could tell you other stories too, but this is David's show, so I wanted to just help you out a little bit. But I would definitely do that. I'd put it in a trust, and somebody that you trust, to do it, and. Just make, when you walk in the DMV, just make sure you got insurance and all the forms done. The insurance company might do it for you. Some of the automobile companies, like AAA and stuff, they'll do it for you.
So back to your friend's situation where you were your friend's trustee, just for his vehicles, your initial vehicle that you did that way, you're the one that handled all the DMV whereabouts to get the car registered and get his hard plates?
No, what I did was he did up all the forms, and I signed it, and I believe
that he went himself or something.
I believe he went into the DMV and did it, and then when he moved, I just there's a release or something, or a substitution. And it just went on. But all of us have got to start doing this stuff, because we're just vulnerable. I mean, you're just sitting out there in the public, a member of the trust, just waiting to get whacked,
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you go then, because this is David's show.
I mean, you definitely helped out. That's always the perplexity there, and then I was even hearing, as parents, your children get to be 16, 17 years old, they get their driver's license, and then you have them on your insurance, and they go out and get into a major accident. You're going to be screwed that way too, because you were the co-signer on their car or whatnot like that. So definitely does need to be held in trust to be able to set yourself apart from those things.
Hang on, Ira.
Yep, and you can do that with homes too. So
right.
All right, I'm going to turn it back to David here, because this is his show. Thank you.
Sorry, Ira. We hear a background conversation. Are you trying to ask a question, or is that a background conversation? All right, thank you.
Hey, I got a little bit of a silly question for 2-bit miner and Once Upon a Bag. So since we're talking about the individual private banker person and trusts, is it incorrect to use your fictitious individual banker EIN person if you have it as the trustee of your private trust, which is different from you, the living? See, that's how I'm kind of seeing it in my mind. And I'm not sure if that's incorrect.
Mark, I understand. I understand what you have, and I've seen your paperwork, and I appreciate your assistance in like the conversations that we've had. But I don't think that the way that you have it doesn't set you apart at all. So if somebody's coming after you because they're mad in any way, shape, or form, you're fully exposed, because everything still is you. It's your name in some form or fashion, in different spellings and all caps or not, but it still all leads back to you. All arrows point back to you. That's just my way of looking at it, but that's why I'm trying to understand whether your trust should be something totally different than your name, which is what Dave said last week. I understand that makes sense because that keeps you still held in trust, and your trust still stays private. But if it's just your name or a play on your name, there's not much privacy there. And anybody that sues you for $500,000 is going to sue anything that's held by Mark Joseph in whatever form Mark Joseph spells his name, is what I feel.
All right. Well, I mean, it's a question that I had to ask because I follow the Patrick Devine teachings. That's kind of how I got into this whole SPC process. And that's kind of what he advised his people to do. You transferred your collateral trust certificates, like your certificate of live birth and your Social Security contracts, into your trust, your private bank estate and foreign grantor trust. And he always made this distinction between the living man and then this individual banker fictitious EIN person that he suggested we create. So the living don't ever get numbered is what he said. That's why he always schooled people that there's a difference between the living, which would be the beneficiary of the trust, and your individual banker EIN person.
I understand that, and I've followed his teachings too, and it's either with dashes or without dashes that makes you living or not. But I still feel that in all of that if you get into a civil suit or you get into, I mean, like I said, your kid wraps himself around a pole and at the same time had 4 other kids in the car with him, that no matter how much you say that my car was held in trust and this was held in trust, it still points back to you. Where I understand there's still a way of doing Patrick Devine's teachings, just with having your entities not your name. You can still do that same exact concept.
Comment? Yep. Regarding my friend that moved to Florida, and I learned a lot about the law from him, what he called guerrilla law. He told me of a story of a woman in Florida that lent her car to somebody, and they went out and did something stupid with it in an accident, and she got, they were trying to hold her liable because she was the owner of the vehicle. She got some counseling from someone, and she went in and submitted some paperwork in the courtroom, and the judge says, is this you in Florida? And she said, no, Your Honor, it's not me. And he looked at her and said, it's not you? She says, no, Your Honor. She kept quiet. The judge smiled and looked at the clerk and said, another one who knows who she is. And he said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to issue 5 or 6 individually signed letters. I'm going to give them to the bailiff. I'm instructing the bailiff to never take his eyes off these papers. He's going to go down to the clerk's office. There's one desk in the clerk's office. He's going to hand the paperwork to that person, and that'll be it. So this is real, and it goes back to Latin law. capitis diminutio maxima. The all caps name, there's in Roman law, there were the capitis diminutio maxima, that's the all caps, then capitis diminutio medium, which is title case, and then capitis diminutio minima, which is all lowercase. Now, it doesn't apply so much to our civilization, but the lowercase had the highest level in it. And now, so how does this apply practical? I was down with someone at the Van Nuys, California courthouse, and there was a sheriff's deputy in a vehicle. And I went up to him and I said, "Excuse me, officer, can I ask you a question?" And he said, "Sure." I said, "Does your computer allow you to put someone's name in the computer if it's all lowercase?" And he was kind of shocked, and he turned real quick and started working on the computer. And I waited about 45 seconds or so, and he said to me, "No, the computer won't let me put it into the system." So when you see the all caps name, as we all should know, that's the trust from your birth certificate. You're part of the cattle, and they can do with you whatever they want. Now, if you challenges it in some way, then you might end up with that girl in Beverly Hills with a speeding ticket when she walked out of the court with nothing. So these are just things, that little tricks in the law that they use against us. And they don't. How many people know about this? How many people go about trying to enforce it or use it? But you want to do it in a peaceful way. You don't want to do it and contest it. Then they can get jurisdiction over you on that. So I always title letters and stuff "coming in peace." Okay, so they can't say that you're being antagonistic to them. So, and paperwork is everything. I mean, you put it in paper. There's only 3 types of evidence in court. There's paperwork, there's personal testimony, and there's expert testimony. And the thing you can do is paper them to death. So if you're in that type of situation and it comes up, get them asking questions and make them give you answers. So anyway, getting back to the trust there, I mean, that's something that you really should do, because you're exposed. So that girl walked out of it in Florida. She walked out of it not being responsible for it because she wasn't personally liable, because she knew the difference between being a public person in the public trust and being a private person and a natural woman on the land, if that makes sense.
Right. And Patrick Devine has it where, like, last name, first name or last name dash middle for, like, so I understand that spelling a name differently and not having it as all caps, but it all still being your name, that still just keeps you exposed from all avenues. What
I read once, I don't know if it's true, but I read once that I'll just say it, the Vatican has all family names, last names registered. And so one thing that someone did is put a colon after your middle name, because your first name and your middle name is your given name. That separates it from the surname. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. So I got all lowercase, and after my middle name, I have a colon. I made that my legal name, and I did it with a 400-year-old law that's published in Europe. And it was accepted by everyone.
If somebody's looking for you in public record, they're still going to find a version of your name.
Yeah, but but it's not me. Let me explain. I have never admitted this publicly before. After I published it 4 times as required by local law, 4 weeks in a row, I sent all the paperwork, registered mail, to the Pope, the Queen of England, the U.S. Secretary of State, the California Secretary of State, the FBI, the U.S. Attorney, the District Attorney, the LAPD, the LA Sheriff's Department, and the World Court as an experiment. And it was accepted by everyone. And my name started disappearing off certain databases. Okay, and about 5 years ago, I sent a letter to the U.S. State Department. They didn't answer me for 9 months. And I got a letter without a letterhead, without a date, without a signature, and it just says, we cannot answer this question unless you present a birth certificate, a driver's license, or a passport. You still there?
I am.
Oh, okay. So anyway, but it took them 9 months to do that.
You had to remove yourself out of the system, is what you're saying. So
Right.
After sending that and pretty much you put everybody on notice and you published it. And
Right.
What has that done?
Well, it changes everything. I don't get tickets or anything. I mean, it just changes everything. Now, there's a little trick if you get a U.S. passport and your name's in capital letters. If you go to like one of the first pages on it, and I was told this by someone down at the airport with, if someone lost their passport, they could print one out for them real quick. So an immigration officer told me this, and they had stacks of all these different types of passports that they could print out. And I asked the guy, and he said, well, you can write something in your passport. There's one page in there that's not glossy, and you can write your status in it. At least that's what I did. I put, I'm a natural man on the land, and I am private, and that sort of thing. So I got it right on there. They want to copy it, fine. I presented them with documents that said who I am.
Okay, so that's for your status, but what about, so right now you have a driver's license? Do you have a registered car? Do you have plates on your car?
I have an international driver's license. And I also, the vehicles are registered in someone else's name.
That's what I'm going to say. So that's where the rub is. So once you register your vehicle, you're literally giving whatever state you register that vehicle in permission to have their little police officers sitting on the side of the road with these tag readers or whatever they're doing in their lives. That gives them the right to pull you over. That gives them jurisdiction over that vehicle. That's the only thing that allows them to is us having our plates and having our year up to date. So as long as our decals are up to date, that's what gives them jurisdiction. Right there. So you're already allowing them to do that by registering your car. That's why they make you register your car.
Well, my one thing I'd like to find out is who actually owns the DMV. There's a Karen Hughes. Do you have heard of her? Karen Hughes. She passed away a couple of years ago. She had a doctorate degree in law at Yale. For 20 years, she was legal counsel for the World Bank. And she says in the video that 60% of the IRS money goes to the Vatican and 40% goes to the city of London. And in this video, I believe it was the last one she did, she said a man had come up to her because she was releasing a lot of this information and slammed her head and back on the ground. And she was in the hospital for a month, and she had just gotten out. And a couple of months later, she was gone. She wasn't. So the point is, when are we going to stand up? I mean, did George Washington register his horse? Did Abraham Lincoln have a horse license to ride a horse? I mean, how much do we want to put up with? And do these people keep us safe? I don't think so. Anybody there?
It doesn't seem like there's a right or a wrong. It seems like you're going to play by their rules and you're going to be harassed by them. And then if you don't play by their rules, you're going to be harassed by them. So, I think we're all here in this same forum trying to figure out what's the best way to just have the path of least resistance and not be contentious and not be argumentative. But at the same point in time, we just want to live our lives.
It's a diplomatic passport. It's like, that goes back to the theory of personal status correction. Just have a diplomatic passport and just know the, so let's go to legislative history for just a minute. So Title 22 U.S. Code 254D was created to give like a statutory procedure to exit from any sort of civil matter at any time based on the tribunal in question not having personal jurisdiction. And that was there to enforce Vienna Convention statutes, or the Vienna Convention Treaty on Diplomatic Relations. And I've actually posted examples of like published court opinions where people had like federal prosecutions dismissed because they were not subject to the system in its personal jurisdiction, just based on having the international treaty law rights. I think someone actually shared there is a current UN group. It starts with the letter G. They're actually appointing people as diplomats right now so they can go overseas and do like mission work, but that also exempts them from the entity's jurisdiction. And then if you look at the actual accreditation paperwork that's been used in some of these court cases filed by actual lawyers, it's just stuff that was drummed up on a computer and then signed to look official, but it was very clearly just drummed up on a computer, so anyone could make that. So really, it is just about understanding how to respond to demands for things such as investigative questioning and detention, how to invoke treaty, and how to specifically state like the personal jurisdiction issue. And that covers all like personal status correction, public to private theories, just with like not being subject to this set of rules while still being able to enforce rights and use various processes that are available through such a mechanism, and just operate as like a creditor shareholder, not as a debtor, what we call this corpus of the trust, but operate like as a creditor who's exercising their shareholder rights, not showing up as the system's debtor. Like what keeps happening, people keep going out into the public, they're identifying themselves as the debtor for the system, but can always just come in as like power of attorney general over that name with the protections of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations and the Geneva and Hague. And now the personal jurisdictional question has been addressed, so there's no longer like a civil matter to address. It's actually an Article 2 military matter with the corporation and all of its participants. They're acting off the Article 2 military power of the United States of America Corporation, is how they're operating. So...
But how do you still register your car? Like, how do you still register with diplomatic immunity?
Yes, there are diplomatic plates, but you can just register the car to a trust. Like, title the vehicle so it is owned by a trust. That way, like I was explaining before, if the police look up the tag in their computer, it's going to show a trust, not a person. And that's basically legal separation, which is considered a form of status correction. It's like a done deal.
Just a representative driving the car that gets pulled over at that point in time. They take your driver's license or your passport and go back and run it in their system. It comes up to the name of the trust, but it's still registered.
You're granting your vehicle into the trust. It's like a gift. You don't have to sell it or get a commercial insurance thing or anything. It's just your vehicle. You're allowed to create a trust and put it into the trust.
Or
you're the grantor.
And to address the personal question of that, just present a diplomatic passport in response to all demands for identification. And now there's no system for them to look up. The Vienna Convention actually operates under visa-exempt travel laws, meaning there's no...
Got it. So you're pulled over on the side of the road and you just give them your passport, and they're going to run the plates that's on the car, but the plates are going to come back to the trust. And the trust is foreign.
And the trust is foreign, correct.
Understood. Got it.
Now you're in the private jurisdiction, which is international. Now anything they do against an actual person is actually a military conflict. Not a civil or criminal conflict, that's a military conflict. It is now, they're misusing the Article 2 military power of the United States of America Corporation.
pretty much if they do anything other than take your passport from you, go back to their car and come back and tell you to have a nice day, they've stepped across their boundaries.
Literally, they stepped over the line. They stepped over the border. That's an international war crime.
Absolutely. Okay. Just trying to understand it.
The thing where people get in trouble is it's one thing to be right. It's another thing to be able to enforce it. So you've got to always judge that and take it into consideration.
Yeah. And you also got to pick your battles. So it's kind of like if you know that the cop sits down there by Wawa and he's going to see you go by every day, you know, and he's a jerk, you got to pick your battles.
And we usually get a few bruises on our way to finding that out.
Yeah. And Mark, I'm not sure, just to go back to what you were saying, Mark, so if you were to follow the same concept and have your banker be Joseph's Estate and Trust or Joseph's Bank and Trust, I mean, it still has a touch of your name in it, but I don't think it has to be your full name, private banker, or however, you know, you decide to hold it right now, and then you still have that same concept or role that it can play.
Okay.
Or BB&T or something like that behind it, business banking and trust, or you can say something that just kind of sets you apart from your first middle last or first last name.
But the only thing is that if I'm liable for injuring somebody or their property, I want to be liable because I am. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't want to try to hide from that or run away from that. That's common law, right? That's kind of the perspective that I'm coming from. So, I mean, definitely follow your intuition, but I'm just trying to figure out, like, where do I want to be identified and where do I not? Because I kind of do want to be identified.
So,
well, yeah, under common law, you can be identified. If you go up and you knock somebody's teeth out without cause, you've created injury, and yet you're going to have to pay.
It's automatically common law. It's automatically there, dude.
Right. And if you've committed a crime, you're going to be charged. The police, even if they don't charge you, they may restrain you, you know, or whatever they have to do. So that's fine. But this is different. We're talking about, you know, the law of the trust and the artificial world that they've created around us. You know, in California about 15 years ago, I was just curious. I was a database programmer, and I was just curious about how many laws they had in California, motor vehicle laws. And there were, at that time, over 42,200 motor vehicle laws in California. I mean, who has the time to even dream this stuff up? I mean, they just make it up and put it on the books. I mean, you know, you think they voted for every single thing? So, you know, they just come up with this stuff. It's not even law. Oh, it's regulations or it's code. It's motor vehicle code. Well, code is a hidden language, isn't it? I mean,
that's California for you. But then there's the Republic of California, California state, and that's where I think a lot of us are trying to move into. So I couldn't agree with you more about the corporate codes.
Yeah, and it's all, in my opinion, I've studied this a long time. In my opinion, what they've done is we have the corporate common law, and in the Constitution, you know, the common law will be the law of the land in the Constitution. But what they've done by taking over the banks and everything else, they created another layer of law, and it's been growing and growing and growing. And eventually they want this commercial law to supersede any constitutional law. Like, why would any politician come up with a gun control law or a free speech law? You know, some of these stupid things. I mean, that's all constitutional law. But this, now it's all different. Now it's commercial, and that's what they want to do. I mean, the Article 3 courts was, I assume, David might know more about it than I. The Article 3 courts were created by the Congress to handle some of this because the Supreme Court couldn't handle everything, so they put in these. My understanding is the president could suspend them or get rid of them. I mean, you know, So I don't know, but this is what we're all dealing with. And one of the reasons we have problems is we have so many people that both politicians and criminals that do so many outrageous things. They should be punished for it, and there's no punishment at all. They're lucky if they take away their library card. So,
right, totally. And you know, as I learn more and more about our rights, you know, we have the right to arrest
absolutely
individuals who are who are violating our rights, including our constitutional encoded rights. And we the people are kind of like the fourth branch of government, believe it or not. And we could actually conduct our own grand juries to indict, you know, anybody who's violating our rights. But because, like you said, we're in the commercial realm, I think that's where it's really important for people to learn how to operate in commerce through contracting, right? So that's why my personal I don't understand the idea of registering your vehicle into a trust or a trust name, because you're still registering it, which means you're transferring legal title
Still doing it, right?
California. So that's why my process is I put them in a contract, because contract is the highest law. And then in that contract, you move the title of your vehicle to your foreign trust, but you don't register it with the DMV. You completely unplug from it. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But they're still going to tow the truck. They're still playing their games, and that's why, you know, you need to start specifying like a fee schedule when they do that, and then you charge them every single time they steal your vehicle. You know what I'm saying? Because I think once we start collecting from their violating of our rights, that's, I think, maybe when they're going to stop. But that's the hypothesis.
Go through it over and over again, and who has the time to go through it over and over again? Like, that's the whole thing. Like, how many times do you got to get arrested? How many times do you have to be right but treated wrong?
Well, if we don't resist it now, then we move into like the real ID and all that biometric stuff. So you'd be surprised, like where I am, there are a lot of people who have a lot of they do this, and they'll have all their vehicles towed because they know they're right. So it's just something we kind of have to do, in my opinion.
So have your vehicle towed, and then you have to go through whatever it takes to get it back. And in the meantime of getting it back, you're under hardship, and you're just going to hit them with all of that until you get it back. But how many times? Well, this has already happened to you. You've already had this experience, you know, and it doesn't seem like it was pleasant, but you've already had the experience, and it seems like you really wouldn't mind having it again, like later on this week. Like how many times?
Yeah, but
good point.
Every time they keep doing that, okay, and they keep have to pay you.
Yeah, but you're paying at the same time. But you're paying with your time. You're paying with your everything, your integrity in that moment. You're paying. Yeah, you're paying each time too.
I know what you're saying, because a lot of people are going to do that. Look, I need my car, so I'm going to do that. But that is the way that they get you. So you either stand your ground or you just give up. As simple as that. That's what I'm doing right now. Right now. No, I'm not going to register my car. I'm not going to give you my car so you can pimp me out. No.
Yeah, and I don't want it in my mom's name, and I don't want it in my auntie's name, and I don't want it in the librarian corporation's name. I want to just pay for my vehicle and live my life, not get arrested each time.
Right. But if every time, if you go in there correctly, and every time they trying to make money off your account. All right, they're not trying to lose money. So if every time they keep doing that, yeah, they're gonna be like, look, leave this person alone, okay? Put her on a list or something or whatever. All right, because if they know if they keep doing that, then and not to mention if whoever's doing it, like say if the cop and you go and you go after his bond, that's a done deal, because he cannot even be a cop without his bond.
How long were you in jail, Mark, when they pulled you over and towed your car? How long was your car impounded, and how long were you in jail in that situation?
I wasn't in jail at all. I've spent 0 time in jail.
You gave him a habeas corpus right there?
I did, but that didn't work. Habeas corpus didn't work. They just wanted me to sign the ticket. That's what they wanted more than anything else. And I signed it with all rights reserved under contracts, because I have state of California in my security agreement and the DMV and everybody else.
So you're on the side of the road, they're towing your car, and they're just more worried about you signing the ticket for your car not being registered.
Right. If I wouldn't have signed it, then they would have cuffed me and take me to jail. But I signed it, all rights reserved under contracts. Now, I wouldn't have just signed it with nothing else. You have to reserve your rights, but I have a contract in place.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? So
I'm not saying all this to them. You were saying all this to them and saying your right status and saying everything that was your correct stance at the scene, and they still tow your car.
Yeah, because they don't get it. These guys are like, I'm not bashing cops, by the way. You know what I'm saying? I try to be very polite with them and kind to them, but they're like Agent Smiths. They just take orders. They don't know the law. They don't even have the concept. I kept on telling them, I'm not in state of California. I'm in California state, the Republic of California. They're like, well, what do you mean republic? They don't even have the concept of that. So they just follow orders. That's why I'm saying, like, if you have a contract in place and a fee schedule, you have to cancel anything they send you. Anything. They have no contract. They have nothing. Then you have to file a claim on their insurance and send them the bill. And in my case, they just went quiet. And when you go quiet, you agree. That's it. And then the fee schedule is a lot, by the way, because they're complicit in grand theft auto. You bonk them for $2 million every single time they tow your vehicle. But then the problem now is, how do you enforce it? That's where I'm at in this process. Like, how do you enforce it? And like, how do you get paid?
And that's what I'm saying. So you've been through this, all of it, been through the ringer. You got your car back out. How did you go about getting your car back out? And was that the same day, or was that?
Yeah. A couple days later, I had to re-register. I had to get insurance. I had to do everything. And then I had to go back to them. But I signed everything under reservation of rights, all rights reserved under contracts. I mean, you need your car. Like, you can't give that up. You know what I'm saying? That's
so
why
they gave you marching orders and said, you're not getting the car until you go to the motor vehicle and you do this, 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 and this. You did this, this, and this, but in your foreign grantor's name, or what did you do? And then went back to them and showed them.
I put the DMV and state of California in a security agreement, sent to the Secretary of State and the governor and like everybody.
This was after they took your car, though. This was after they had taken it.
No, this was before. No, you put this in place first before you do any of this stuff, because contracts are the highest law. That's what I'm saying. In the commercial, especially in the commercial realm, contracts reign supreme. So he who has the contract is king, or she who has the contract is queen. So then after that, in your contract, you have the fee schedule, and you say, hey, look, you know, you take my truck right now. You're violating this contract, and here's the fee schedule, and you have to just go through with it and send them the bill, and cancel.
Comment.
Hold on. Okay.
Yes. Go ahead.
And then you have to cancel anything they sent you. So they sent me a citation that was canceled. I created an affidavit and I wrote over it. Then they sent me a notice of stored vehicle, contract offer, boom, cancel. Then they amended the citation. They sent me a third citation to try to elevate the infraction to like a felony, because I had my own plates and they were going to charge me with falsified plates. Just send it back, cancel, court case dismissed. So I never went to jail. There's no jail when you know how to execute the power of the pen.
The problem is, it took me a long time, believe me, it took me decades to really understand this. Where they got the hook in you is with the birth certificate, because your mother placed you in a trust. Just real quick, have you ever seen the movie Cleopatra with Elizabeth Taylor and Rex Harrison?
Yes.
Okay. Watch it again, and watch it when I think it's the Caesar's aide comes up to him and says, Caesar, you have a child. And he says, Rex Harrison says, is it is it a male or female? And he says, it's a boy, Caesar. And he turns around and he's all excited. And he says, I want to go see him. And Rufus, I think his name is Rufus, says, Caesar, be careful. If you recognize the child, then you're responsible. And he takes off, and his entourage go there, and he go up to Elizabeth Taylor, and he looks at the baby, and his back's toward the camera, and he turns around, and he raises the baby up in the air with one hand on its legs and the other hand on its neck to support it, and he holds it up in the air, and he says, behold, I have a son. And all the soldiers raise their hands and acknowledge it. The reason for that is, in the movies, they tell you what's really going on. The reason for it is that under Roman law, only the male can recognize the child that has a soul. And under Roman Christianity, if the male doesn't do that, then the child is a ward of a state or something else. And so that's how they get the hook on you, because you go out and you do all of this stuff, but are you in the public trust? Is your birth certificate in the public trust? And that's what they got the ultimate jurisdiction, and they're never going to tell you that. The judges know. And that's what they did. They did it to my wife when our son was born. I came in there the next day, and she'd already signed the birth certificate. Nobody notified me about it. So it's really, in my opinion, evil, because it's fraud. And, that, like I said, it's one thing to be right. It's another thing to enforce it. So you got to be careful on that one. Over.
Agreed.
I wish you all the luck, Mark, in enforcing, because like I said, you've shared your documents. I think your documents are powerful. I think that just your experience alone and you being on this side of it right now shows that your documents have power, and the path that you're using is working. It's just that how do you enforce it now? You already know that they touched your vehicle. You already know that they violated a couple of things on your fee schedule, and your fee schedule was established and already there. So how do you enforce it now?
That's where we're at. And that's what we're going to find out.
Trial and error, my dude. Trial and error, my dude. Hey, that in itself is freedom, though. So like I said, I wish you all the luck in your endeavors, because you're living the life. It's just, you're living a life of freedom that some of us are looking to get. It's still that you're still taking your bumps and bruises, but I'd say that you have a pretty comfortable way of going right now as far as the way that you're operating.
We shall see what happens.
I heard that when you send your papers, your documents to the court, that someone was saying that the judge did not recognize. Because they only recognize whatever the jurisdiction that they're over or controlling. Like they would totally ignore your papers. Is that true?
No, they're operating in commerce, so they're a commercial entity, and you can rebut any of their contract offers, which is what their citations are and their notices.
I'm just gonna speak about
if I gave them my status, because I did that when I refused to pay the ticket. I gave them my papers. Now I don't know, the fraction office. I don't know if they made copies. I don't know if they sent that. I'm gonna take my papers anyway, because I don't, I think if they looked at it, they're probably gonna act like they didn't get them. But somebody said, I heard that they will not look at the papers or anything like that. They will ignore them.
Comment. One way you can get around that, they do that in California, in other places all over the country. Send it certified mail with a return receipt. Somebody signs it, so they can't say, oh, we lost it or we never got it. Yeah, you got it, sucker, and I got the ticket right here with somebody's signature on it. That's the way you can ensure that you get your paperwork in. But the paperwork's important, because that's what the court sees. and it works. It works every time for me.
Right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Okay.
Another thing on your signature. This is going back old common law. I was taught some of this. If there's a frame on a page, anything outside the frame is not related to the document. You'll find, like on birth certificates and stuff, in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see a red number. That's the finance number. It has nothing to do with what's inside the document. With ink, black ink is ink of the dead. Blue ink, if you look at your veins, they're blue. The blood's blue. And red, it means warning or take notice. So sign your name on the right side, because if you go in for a loan, what do? They have you sign on the left side, and then whoever accepts it signs on the right side. Put your signature on the right side in blue ink, and then get a red pad of ink and put your right thumbprint on it, and put it on the end over your blue signature. Because they can say, oh, you didn't have it notarized. Well, Your Honor, that's me there. I'm the only one. I'm the natural man on the land. That's my fingerprint. Because what do they do when you go to a notary? They ask for your driver's license or your birth certificate or your passport, right? And then they ask you for your thumb. But what do? In the book, they use black ink. So you'll notice the kings, whenever you see the movie, you'll see the kings and stuff, when they do their stamp and their seal to make it official, they always use red ink. So you do the same, right? Because these people work for you. When I was a boy, and I'm a baby boomer, when I was a boy, we were taught these people work for us. But if you treat them like they're your masters, they're gonna oblige. So just be polite, know your rights, be firm, have the law on your side. And you can always do a special appearance and challenge their jurisdiction. And they misidentified you. Are you the natural man? You got a pen there? Look at Title 28, Section 3002. Subsection 10 and subsection 15. And Title 28, Section 3002, subsection 10 and subsection 15. One defines a person as a natural man on the land, a corporation, a trust, or a foundation. Took me like 15, 20 years to figure this out. Why would you have to call a trust or natural man on the land or a foundation or whatever a person? Is that just convenience? Why is that in the law? Then I think number 15 is the United States is a corporation. Okay, well, I did research on it. I'm the only one that I know of that found it, but I found out the corporation of the United States is registered to an unnamed entity in Edinburgh, Scotland. And if you do a search engine, you Google or something, go United States LTD, that's re-registered every 2 years in London. Now, why would anybody need a United States LTD in London? You see, so we're all getting screwed. And once people find out about it, somebody's got to have enough gumption to, stand up and try to assert your rights. The more people that learn, the more they get nervous. Because this goes back at least 400 years.
All right. Did anyone have any burning questions? Anything?
Right. Yeah, the the DTC. Now you posted up the PDF. Now what's the benefit of doing that? What will we be able to do once we do that?
You'd be able to control a financial account that has a balance higher than $1 billion. There are very few forms of, we're just going to call it commercial machinery on this planet, which can do such a thing other than a DTC account. Say for maybe an IRS corporate tax account, because when I was on the phone a while back with the Foreign Grantor Trust hotline, an employee told me there that the highest tax refund they ever saw was for $100 million. So this might have just been them speaking behind the scenes, but it's just the level of commercial machinery at the DTC is just higher than what exists on the consumer side of the banks.
Now, there's no expiration on a 1099 on your transcript, right? If it's been there for a while, you just didn't know it.
More or less correct.
One more. Is everybody using the Tax Act just to do their 1040s and 1041s? And are they paying for it? Or
Tax Act usually is a paid service, just with all of the types of credits and deductions that would have to be claimed for these sort of returns. They'll usually have like a $50 or so fee. Most e-filers will.
yeah, because I did mine's with Tax Acts, and I still haven't gotten anything yet.
My first recommendation there would be to find out why. My intuition with this says the result is actually supposed to be instantaneous, or nearly instantaneous. Like if there's any delay, it's grounds to start taking proactive measures.
Yeah, in the beginning, everything was fine. It just showed me everything, but and then I got a letter from the IRS. They needed some more information. I sent it, but then I didn't bother to look at the Tax Act anymore. But recently, when I looked at it, now I see that whatever I filed is like different. Like it says 0, and I'm like, wait a minute, this wasn't here before. So why did it change?
Ask for the responsibility code for the 810 for that account. And also just know that it is possible to refile some or all of this on corporate taxes.
David, did amend it, or just do it again, not amend it, right?
Either or. I think that one of the hidden options there is to create like a corporation or corporate entity and then just do the whole thing off of their transcript. I also heard a David. Someone said David.
Yeah, I did with the whole Capital One. I don't know. I wasn't on the beginning part of the phone call, but the one person that had the wrong EIN for Capital One, and then somebody else had a different EIN for Capital One. But I think Mark was trying to get the information and he didn't have the correct name. Did that get resolved as far as maybe that might be some underlying issue on why maybe the EIN mismatches are happening? Because the corporations are actually filing their taxes through
parent
like a whole different EIN.
Yeah, through like parent companies. And always check with the CAF unit if there's any question about the name of the entity being listed as the payer or its taxpayer identification number. Always confirm those details with the CAF unit. Even if you have to kind of do fishing expeditions, just don't make it obvious that you're doing fishing expeditions, or just have to call back and talk.
When you say confirm it with the CAF unit, you're saying like once you think that you're good to go and everything's good, and even the filer did its match up and says that everything is good, you're still wanting to make sure you do your 911 packet so that way your 4506T confirms that there was money moving between that EIN and whatnot versus it being just like a pass-through entity and it didn't file anything?
Basically, yes, and you'll complete the 4506T packet just to confirm all data that you're going to use with the CAF unit.
Gotcha. And then if it isn't correct, I guess like some of these EINs, when you look up the companies, HIPAA space comes up as one of the links, and HIPAA space might have like 7 to 8 EINs for Capital One and like different versions of Capital One, so maybe that's a place to find multiple. But how do you still know which one is the parent company?
The CAF unit will tell you. Just try different combinations and let them tell you which is correct.
They'll keep you on the phone and let you keep trying, or you have to try it and then they say no, that's not right.
Might have to talk to a different employee, but eventually they will tell you when it is correct.
That's hilarious. Okay, got it. And then I guess Capital One has credit cards, and then Discover took over. But then what about Capital One Auto Finance? Those are most likely be 2 different EINs to 1099 OID.
Yeah, probably separate names too. But always just confirm it with the CAF unit. When they give you a positive match for like a name, TIN, and address combination, you can go with that.
Just go with that. Got you. Thank you.
All right, so we're at.
Where can you go to see the account using the CAF number?
Okay, that is in the on IRS.gov.
Yeah, I see here somebody posted a picture here, like with the payers, like all the companies. Where can you see that at? Is it the IRS?
It is. Go to the secure object repository. Like when IRS employees email you transcripts, they will send that in the secure object repository, which is like an email inbox on IRS.gov. Okay, so technically we're after 9 p.m. Eastern time, so I'll wrap up any final questions and then end the recording, if anyone had any final questions. Otherwise, I will just end the recording. All right, final questions, going once, going twice. All right. Okay, so we'll just end the recording.